And we're apparently live. Hello. Welcome. It's Friday, September 25th. It's 1 p.m. This is Daily Star Trek Views. My name is Alison Pitt. I'm the host of Daily Star Trek News right here on this channel. This show is a little different. This is the live, I want to say uncensored version, but I don't intend to like swear or anything. Don't worry. But it's a chance to talk a little bit more loosely about, stuff that happened during the week in Star Trek. Today, we actually have a lot to cover, and it's still only going to be a half an hour show. So fingers crossed that works out. We're going to talk about those film cancellations or not. We're going to talk about Discovery Season 4 or not. And a little later, I do want to kind of address the whole Uber Eats, Star Trek, Star Wars crossover thing. And then, oh, hi, Zach. And yeah, that'll be it. So before I do that, please, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the bell. I feel like I'm one of those guys now. I'm like one of those YouTubers, like smash that like button. But it kind of does make a difference because it helps YouTube know what people are interested in. So yeah, please do that. Also, if you like what we do here on Daily Star Trek News, please consider supporting us on Patreon. It's patreon.com/Daily Star Trek News. It's how we do everything we do. So thank you for being here and thank you for supporting us. And I guess let's talk about rumors. So here's the thing with rumors. You probably, if you listen to Daily Star Trek News, you probably already know I really don't cover rumors that much. The exception to that is when it comes from like what I would call a credible source. That's actually a little bit of a light term. A credible and well-known source, basically a source whose literally professional reputation would be staked on giving a false rumor, right? Those are people like Variety, the Hollywood Rags, the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, some of the bigger like newspapers or magazines. Those places, when they report something as sources have said XYZ, you can pretty much be guaranteed they're going to be reasonable and good information because their professional reputation depends on being correct about those things. So those are the type of things that sometimes I'll report. But largely speaking, I stay away from rumors, which is frustrating because that is what gets a lot of traffic in Star Trek circles. But I really want the people who listen to the show to be able to depend that like what I'm saying is actually true stuff that has happened. So having said that, this week was a really weird week because two really big things happened that are probably credible, but don't come from official sources, and therefore we won't really cover on the show. So that's one of the reasons that I like having Daily Star Trek Views, because I can address them. I can talk to you guys about why they didn't make this show and what my actual thoughts are on that, and when they will make the show. So I'll go in chronological order because there's two big stories and I want to cover them both. The first one is the film cancellations. So context for this, a website called Giant Freaking Robot, which I shouldn't even name them because I don't know who they are. They are one of many fandom websites that talks a lot about rumors and never names their sources. On a regular basis, those types of sites, there are several of them, you probably know their names. Those types of sites are generally not incorrect, but even a broken clock is right twice a day. Hollywood is not like some big mysterious, like nebulous, capricious being, right? It's a business. So you can make pretty good predictions about things that are going to happen. And you'll be right a lot of the time. It's, I think there's this like weird, people tend to think of Hollywood as this big magical place, but it isn't. It's a business. And so when somebody like that website comes out and says that Paramount has canceled all future Star Trek films, which I don't think that's what they said. I can't remember exactly what their phrasing was, but the gist of it was all of the talk that we've heard recently about Star Trek films possibly being in production or being written or whatever, that's all been canceled and they're just not doing any films now. That assertion from inside sources is not an unreasonable assertion, but, and this is like but in like giant letters with a big marker but, um, that's not the kind of thing that a company like Paramount Pictures is ever going to announce. So you can't ever prove or disprove something like that, and therefore it's completely pointless to do that as a story because it's just not a thing, basically. Um, it's not unreasonable to think that it's possible that they might be putting a pause on things because, you know, Star Trek is a really complicated franchise. I'll come onto that in a second about like why they may or may not want to do Star Trek films right now. Um, but Paramount Pictures is part of Viacom CBS, which is a very big company, and it's got a lot of different strategies happening at the same time. That said, Paramount Pictures is, its own entity as well. It operates relatively independently. There are about a billion reasons that you and I don't have any privy to that they may or may not want to continue the films right now. And it may just be that right now isn't the right time. Maybe they're pausing because their budgets are constricting because of COVID-19, or maybe they just don't want to interfere with what's going on television, or maybe Emma Watts has lost faith in Noah Hawley and therefore doesn't want to proceed with that, but the other scripts they have are not good options right now. We don't know. So the reason I didn't cover that story is because at the end of the day, even if you think you have good sources wherever, it's still just speculation. And it's not like we can wait for an official word because they're never going to give an official word. That would be like asking Ford Motor Company to confirm or deny whether they are putting the kibosh on some line that they haven't. Never mind. It's a really bad analogy because I don't follow Ford. I don't know anything about Ford cars. Forget I said any of that. My point being is it's a non-story, and it may well turn out to be true. It's not an unreasonable thing to think, and it may turn out to be true, and they will put that as a feather in their cap and say, "Look, we were right about this. We told you." It's also something that I could guess or that you could guess. It's not a story. The reason it hit headlines again was more complicated because then Screen Rant, which has its own issues, then came out and said, "Hey, Giant Freaking Robot said this, but Paramount confirmed to us that that's not true." Except that they did not cite their sources, and Paramount has absolutely not publicly said one way or the other whether films are or are not happening, for all of the reasons that I said before. So this is a really good case of where Star Trek fandom has just got out of control. So somebody could very well have made up the story. I don't think they have. I would like to believe that they hadn't. But then these guys over here also are not citing their sources, and what you have is two people arguing opposite sides of a thing that isn't a story. And then everybody's retweeting it or arguing about it. I've seen things on Facebook going back and forth. You may as well just have had some guy in a room shouting, "They canceled all the Star Trek films." I mean, that's like the equivalent of it. So anyway, that is why I didn't put it on the show. The really long version of why I didn't put it on the show. At the end of the day, there are no publicly verifiable sources. There's no official word from any of the companies involved, and therefore it's speculation at best. So that's that. Now, I promised you I was going to actually say why or why not, like what I actually think about the films. I do, like I said, this is something that I did say on the show. I do think that, so Noah Hawley's film was the one that everyone was talking about in March before we all went into lockdown. And I do think that I find it hard to believe that they're going to proceed with that one based on what we know about it. Partially because I think there's a wild card with Emma Watts. She was at Fox when Lucy in the Sky did really badly. I think he's got an uphill climb to convince her that this time it's going to be good. I don't know anything about their actual relationship, so that may be a huge assumption. I don't know. But also, if I recall correctly, he said that his plot was going to be some Basically, talking about an existential threat to the Federation, and we are doing that in Discovery. I don't kind of obviously we don't know exactly what's happening in Discovery season 3, but that's kind of how they sold it to us. It doesn't seem like a new story. It doesn't seem exciting, and I I'm not sure that we will see that happening soon. And that's particular to that one script. The Tarantino script that basically is a piece of the action, but like more, I guess. Um, I, I I find it hard to think that that's right for right now. And then the other one, which was going to be Kelvin number 4, that's a possibility, I guess, but it feels very vanilla considering all of the innovation that's happening on TV. Which brings me to my second point. This is a really hard time for them to be trying to develop a Star Trek film because there's so much happening on television. And Alex Kurtzman and Secret Hideout have really done a good job of broadening the reach of the Star Trek brand. So you have comedy, you have really like heavy drama, that's Discovery. You have slightly lighter drama with Picard. You've got kids stuff coming up. You've got secret agency stuff. It's really going to be hard to find a niche for a film that works as a film, but then doesn't interfere with what's happening on television. And I'm finding it confusing. I'm not convinced that what we have on television is ready for a film yet, if that makes sense. So there is things happening. Oh, weird. It said chat disconnected me, so I'll try again later. Hopefully you guys can still see me. So that is basically my issue with the movies right now. I think it's a really awkward time. I would go and see a Star Trek movie, and I think most Star Trek fans would. But from a production, business, whatever point of view, I would find it difficult for them to find a niche for that right now. And it's possible that, given the other strains on every sort of entertainment business that there is, it would not surprise me if they chose to just, we're gonna put that, there's a drawer. We're gonna put this in the drawer over here for a minute and we'll, come back to it later. Right, so hang on. So I have lost chat, so I can't see anything you're doing. So I'm going to go and I'm going to try something really quick. Bear with me. Let me see it. I can see it. This is really exciting for you right now. Ha. You can't swear now, Andrew. I can see you now. So there. Right. I'm just gonna really quick swizz down the chat to make sure I haven't missed anything, and then we'll look on to the next topic. Hang on. Hi, William. Hi, Wes. Andrew. Wow, this is a great TV too. So sorry about that. Okay. Right. As long as you guys can still see my face and listen to me talking, then we're good. Because that's really what's the most important. Actually, before we go on to the next topic, I gotta say, so this is the episode where I realized I'm just gonna lead into the fact that I'm just a professional Star Trek buzzkill, because I feel like I spend all day, every day rolling my eyes and sighing heavily when anything exciting comes across like my news feed, and I go, oh, it's not true. It's just a rumor. So I'm gonna get some buttons made up or some stickers or something that say professional Star Trek buzzkill, because that's what's happening today, basically. So that's good. Right. So we talked about the film cancellations and why or why not they may or may not even be relevant. The other one that I wanted to talk to, which kind of blew up yesterday, I think it might have been the day before, I can't remember, is Discovery Season 4. It's happening. It's filming in Toronto. Now, if you guys haven't seen this, there's one picture in particular that circulated everywhere and then, of course, got copied and pasted and whatever, of like a sandwich board in Toronto, and it says Star Trek Discovery Season 4 cast and crew this away. So what that's from is, I have no insider information, by the way. I just want to say a big asterisk disclaimer. I actually saw this come through and I chose not to talk about it in the show. Production Weekly is a professional magazine, trade publication. I mean, it's self-reported, so say what you want about that, but so is IMDb and Wikipedia. So Production Weekly this week, and they do a listing of all of the things that are in active production. They actually had 2 listings for Star Trek. Number 1 was Star Trek Discovery Season 4, working title Green Harvest, and also another one called Strange New World, without an S on the end. I assume that that's Strange New Worlds, that it was just a typo. Now, we know that, okay, I'm trying to put all the right context together. There's also the IATSE union. I don't remember what that stands for, but it's the laborers who do sets and production stuff up in Toronto. They actually have listings now for Discovery Season 4 and for Strange New World. And actually, I'm going to bring it up because so one of the things that IATSE site does, it actually has dates on it. And if I scroll down, this is really exciting. You can't see this. Right. So the Star Trek Discovery Season 4 series is classified as an HB-SVOD. I don't know what the HB stands for, but the SVOD is streaming video on demand. It's specified as cleared to resume production. And the dates that they have on there are November 2nd, 2020 to June 10th, 2021. I don't actually know what that means. That might be filming, in which case the sandwich board that you saw earlier today or earlier this week is probably, I don't know, set construction, something else. If you have any insider information, info@dailystartreknews.com, please let me know. And just for all additional context, they have underneath that Strange New World Season 1 series. It does not say cleared to resume production, but then also the dates for that are February 16th, 2021 to July 16th, 2021. So it's likely that that's space booked for Strange New Worlds, because we already know that they've broken most of those stories and I mean, that was probably a month ago. So by now they're probably pretty far along. And I expect Picard to be in a similar state, probably. Now, 2 things. Number 1, that's not unusual for Star Trek Discovery because they have been filming in Toronto the whole time. We don't know where Strange New Worlds is going to film. They haven't announced that, but the likelihood, I believe, is that it would be Toronto because CBS just invested a whole load of money in a new facility up there. And I don't know whether that has been built or is being built, but it was going to be this big mega production facility that they could rent out to other people as well. So it is reasonable, I think, that Star Trek Discovery Season 4 is starting and Strange New Worlds is coming, and those will probably be in Toronto. We have no idea what that means for talent. Sonequa Martin-Green just had a baby. Is she going to move to Toronto? We don't know. No, we don't know any of this stuff, and we won't for a while. And probably Alex Kurtzman will give an interview here soon, although the Emmys are over, so we don't know when we'll hear from him again. And somebody will say something, and it'll be clearer. But for right now, all we have is a sandwich board and the Production Weekly and the IATSE listing. Things are happening, things are moving in Canada. Which brings me on to Picard, which we also know is pretty far along in production, writing terms. But they don't film in Toronto, or they didn't before. So Picard filmed entirely in not entirely, but it filmed in California. And part of the reason that it filmed in California last time was because they got a huge subsidy from the state of California. It's like an arts commission thing. And they actually got approved for another round of that provisionally, because they actually hadn't officially applied, because they didn't officially have a a production to produce yet. And so it's possible. I mean, I don't know what the implications of moving that would be, but certainly it would be a big change if they were to move the production of Star Trek Picard out of California to someplace like Toronto or Vancouver. Having said that, I don't know what the state of Hollywood productions are right now. It seems to be mixed. Some things are starting up if they can afford to quarantine everybody, and some things are not. So that's where that is standing. Yes, probably things are starting. No, we didn't cover it on the show for the primary reason that the person who posted it and then it got reposted everywhere is not a CBS All Access official. And it's not the type of thing that they're likely to announce anyway. At some point, it will come from one of the producers, and you'll hear about it then, but not before. So yeah, there's that. There we go. Saud, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but yes, Buzzkill Debbie Downer. That's me. Official Star Trek killer of fun is where we go. So Andrew asks, would Patrick Stewart be cool with filming in Toronto? I remembered him living in LA was one of the reasons it was filmed there. It may have been one of the things that influenced that, but also money is a very big motivating factor, especially for a production like that. So I don't know. And it's a really good question. I was thinking about this in terms of Discovery Season 4. Obviously, Sonequa Martin-Green is a major character. She has a brand new baby, and she has a young son, and she has a husband who also works in Hollywood. Is she going to be likely to want to move her whole family up to Toronto to quarantine and then stay in quarantine for the whole filming of the next season? I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what they're asking people to do. We'll eventually know. And until that happens, it doesn't really matter. So all we know is that things are moving, and that's really great. So, okay. I'm going to give you guys a second if you have any more questions on those two topics. I just want to take a second to remind you all the places that you can watch, listen, whatever, interact with this show. So we have here on YouTube, and of course the podcast, which you can find anywhere you can do your podcasts are. This live show is YouTube only, so thank you for sticking with it here. We've got the website, dailystartreknews.com, which is actually a portal to everything else. We have the newsletter. If you are not signed up for the Daily Star Trek newsletter, you should, because it basically sends you all the stories from the day straight to your inbox so you can stay off Twitter. But if you are on Twitter, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Daily Trek News. And of course, like I said at the beginning of the show, this is all supported by Patreon. So if you are able to make a contribution to us on Patreon, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Patreon.com/Daily Star Trek News. And we're growing the YouTube channel really quickly. So if you have a chance to share this with your friends and encourage them to watch, that would be really great as well. All right. So, okay. So Zach asked, do we know when we'll get definite info on production schedules? I don't care too much for rumor. One of the reasons why I like the show. Thank you. But I do like to know when to expect information. They really don't say, this is, so I've been doing this for a while. Usually we find out official information about production. Basically, we never find out directly from CBS All Access. That sort of thing isn't the type of thing they put out a press release for. When we find out about it is when people like Alex Kurtzman or Heather Caden or Michelle Paradise or one of the actors, for instance, is giving an interview for something else. Usually they somebody will ask them a question about Star Trek and they will give an answer. So maybe we'll hear more at the New York Comic Con panel. That's in 2 weeks' time, because they'll all be together and they'll be talking about Star Trek. I don't know. Maybe if they're doing publicity rounds for Discovery, we might hear a little bit more about season 4. But generally speaking, it's not the kind of thing that anybody goes out and makes announcements about. You have to put together bits and pieces from various places. So I don't know is the answer to that. I'll be curious to think because Alex Kurtzman, before we were affected by the pandemic, it was going to be, these sort of tentpole series going on in a cycle throughout the year to keep Star Trek content continually on television, especially on CBS All Access, to kind of keep that subscription model going. And they're going to run out of tentpoles here pretty quick. Um, Once Discovery is finished, and that's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother day, why they seem to be committed to running over Christmas, because it feels like they could have gained themselves a few weeks on the other end. They really don't have any more material. No more live stuff has been filmed, and maybe they're going to bash out another Lower Decks. Maybe Prodigy will be ready. I don't know. But otherwise, we're looking at a pretty long spring with no new Star Trek content. So yeah, I don't know when we're gonna hear is the short version of that very long answer. And Andrew says, will they be filming at Vasquez Rocks? Possibly. Possibly. That's a great place. You can socially distance there. If you've never been, it's a good place to go. It's very fun. And you can totally climb to the top of the rocks. I have done that. You can climb to the top of Vasquez Rocks. It doesn't seem like you should be able to, but you absolutely can. It's fun. Right. So we're actually nearing to the half an hour point, and there was one other thing that I wanted to touch on, and part of it was from you guys requesting it, the Star Trek versus Star Wars thing. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm about to be a buzzkill again. I'm sorry. Yeah, so there's a big Uber Eats campaign, and I cannot even fathom the amount of money they must have paid Patrick Stewart and Mark Hamill to be in these 3 30-second ads. I cannot even fathom the amount of money that it would have taken for them to agree to all of this, because not only have they done these 3 ads, that Uber Eats ad thing was like by far the highest traffic thing I've had all week. And it's it's an ad campaign, people. And it is cool that Patrick Stewart and Mark Hamill are working together on those, but it's an ad campaign. And all of the interviews that they've done this week, it's for an ad campaign. They're advertising Uber Eats, which is, I don't want to say problematic, because there have been sort of equal things. These food delivery services provide a really, really important service right now with the pandemic, people social distancing, not able to go out to restaurants, and people like me who have children and a family who are tired. We need food. So food delivery services are great, but especially in California, they've also had some controversy because they've been taking more money from the restaurants than maybe people feel like they should, and it's actually causing some restaurants to struggle, especially when they have a free delivery option or a free pickup option. There's also been some labor law issues here in California where I won't get into it, but put it this way: Uber nearly shut down because of a spat. So there's some, it's not squeaky clean there, and there's a lot of money behind it. And everyone's giving them free publicity, which irks me a little bit, over the Star Wars versus Star Trek thing. And it's over. I covered it in today's show. It was an interview with Men's Journal. Not to disparage Men's Journal, but they have to make money too. It's an interview with Men's Journal where they interviewed Mark Hamill and Patrick Stewart, and it was, softball questions like, what was it like to work on Star Trek? So they asked the question, I forget what I'm going to look it up because I don't want to misquote anybody and get into trouble. They asked them, how do you feel when people compare Star Wars to Star Trek? Okay, fine. And both of them were very good. Mark Hamill said it's trying to compare apples and oranges. You can like both, you can like neither, you can like one of them or the other. It doesn't matter. Like, they're different things. He actually echoed what a lot of people think, is that Star Trek is science fiction and Star Wars is fantasy. They're both in space, but they're different things. But then Patrick Stewart, bless his heart, he's a smart man, went, and I quote, uh, at least for us on Star Trek, we have fantasized about a combined universe between Star Wars and Trek movies. I would personally get a kick out of that. Um, Cue the internet being set on fire. Well, because Star Trek fans in particular, I actually haven't heard this from Star Wars fans. I really don't think they care that much. But Star Trek fans like, oh my god, that would be amazing. And we can, or oh my god, that'd be the worst thing ever. Star Wars is so dumb, or whatever. And fantasizing about who's the like, what's your ideal crew made up of, and all this other stuff. It is a great fun thing to talk about, and it's a great fun thing to sort of fantasize about, because both franchises are incredibly fun. But it's a marketing campaign. It's a commercial for a food delivery service. So have your debate, but be realistic about the fact that when you have that debate and when you retweet those images and when you add on to that Twitter thread, you are literally giving money to Uber, which is fine. I don't personally have a problem with it, but that's it was a softball question that they could quote that they then drive traffic out of, and so I'm being a buzzkill again. I'm sorry. It's what happens. Anyway, I'm over my time. Oh, I do want to give a quick shout out to Dan, who asked on an episode earlier this week, will Star Trek still be around in 2063 and how? So 2063, of course, is when we meet the Vulcans, if all goes well. I think it will be. I personally think that Star Trek will still be around in 2063. I think that it will not look like what it does now. But even if there's no Star Trek, even if everything ends in 2021 and they cancel all of the films and all of the TV series and it's a big controversy, the fans will keep it alive because there's too many people who are like me who spent years getting involved in that universe and just keep mentally, you just keep going back there. If you think about the fan movements that started in the 60s and 70s all around, being in that universe, as long as there is any way for people to communicate and for people to get together and for us to share our stories, there will be Star Trek in 2063. Even if it's not on our screens. So that's me. Andrew points out that people are still reading Sherlock Holmes over a century later, so Star Trek will still be there. Yeah. I do think that if you would have told Gene Roddenberry in 1966 or 67 that we would be producing Star Trek like we are now, he would have thought you were crazy. You can't see the future, sadly. So anyway, all that's left for me to do is to sign off and say thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for chatting, for giving me an opportunity to kind of rant and kill all of the buzz about Star Trek. I appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out our Patreon if you are able to. And we'll be back here next Friday. This is kind of sticking, and I'm really grateful to see how much you all are participating in the conversation. That's great. So I will see you next week. Live long and prosper. If I can find the button. Okay, bye, for real, bye.